Good evening, everyone. I'm Dylan Ryder from the Johnson County Library's Career and Finance Committee. Thank you for joining us for this first program in our Careers Begin Here series. Tonight's presenter is Eric Ulmer from Workforce Partnership. Mr. Ulmer has 27 years of experience in the workforce development industry and has been with Workforce Partnership since its formation in 2003, serving as the project director since 2015. Feel free to participate in our discussion by using the chat to add your comments and questions. Eric will attempt to address each question as time allows following the presentation. The contents of this program will be recorded for future viewing. You can find those recorded programs at youtube.com/Joco Library. Thank you all once again. Here's Eric.
Thank you so much, Dylan, and thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Eric Ulmer. I'm the project director with Workforce Partnership. I'm going to talk a little bit about our services and our resources. We do serve, as the screen indicates, Johnson, Wyandotte, and Leavenworth counties, but we also serve a contingent of just about anyone through the metro with certain services. And we'll go through a PowerPoint presentation here. Tried to make it fairly short and to the point to leave plenty of time for any questions and discussion this may generate. So buckle up and let's go. What do we say? Now, just real quick, want to tell you who is Workforce Partnership. We are a nonprofit organization, a 501c3, formed in 2003. As I mentioned, we do serve the three-county area primarily. That is Johnson, Leavenworth, and Wyandotte counties in the state of Kansas. We are overseen by a board of directors, and that board of directors is also formulated and overseen by a chief elected officials board who appoints those board members. Those chief elected officials are county commissioners from our three counties. They oversee all that we do and formulate the policies that guide our services and our offerings. The workforce development system consists for us a network of partners. We have state partners with the Department of Commerce, Economic Development, Workforce Development. We have partners with the state of Kansas through the Department for Children and Families, Vocational Rehabilitation Services, and various other community-based organizations and nonprofits. You are stakeholders, and then our three primary workforce centers. Our goal is to prepare the job seeker for the opportunities available and to connect those job seekers with businesses who have those opportunities available. We have a number of services and resources to help make that connection. Where to find us? Got some physical locations listed here on your screen. Leavenworth's at 515 Limit Street. Johnson County, which is where I'm sitting at this very moment, is 8535 Blue Jacket Street, right off 87th. And then in Wyandotte County, we're in downtown Kansas City, Kansas at 626 Minnesota. Certainly available 24/7 at workforcepartnership.com on the World Wide Web. We also have a Facebook page and a LinkedIn page that you can locate information about our services and ongoing events. We'll talk a little bit about basic services. These are available to anyone that walks through the doors or that cares to log into our primary job seeking site, which is the kansasworks.com website. Quick bullet rundown of some of our basic services. This is available to anybody in the metro. We do not specialize it or target it toward anyone exclusively from our three counties. You can do basic assessments of your educational and employment skills to see where that matches up with available openings. We have resume building resources to include staff, worksheets, and online programs that can help you write a resume from scratch or tweak a resume that you have. Of course, we have job search resources. Our primary job listing service, as you'll see in the upper right of your screen, is kansasworks.com. That is a statewide website operated by the Kansas Department of Commerce, which is one of our primary partners that I did mention at the outset of our presentation. We do have a resume workshop in Wyandotte and Johnson once per month. In Leavenworth, they do it by appointment. You can access career and labor market information through our centers or our website. We also offer a national career readiness assessment. It is the WorkKeys ACT product, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a couple of slides here. And of course, based on your needs, goals, and desires, with respect to careers and other resources, we can make referrals to various other programs through our partners. We do offer interest assessments, skills assessments, and work values assessments as indicated in the lower right-hand portion of your screen. And that's again to help you make a good match of your skills and interests with available work opportunities. A moment ago, I mentioned the National Career Readiness Certification. We do offer that here at no charge. You just need to set up an appointment and we can schedule you an assessment. It does measure 3 critical areas that are invaluable to being successful in a range of jobs. Those are applied mathematics, workplace documents, and graphic literacy. It awards certificates at the bronze, silver, gold, and platinum levels based on your minimum scores across the 3 tests. And it does certify for prospective employers your baseline ability to learn new jobs or acquire new skills in rapid fashion based on those scores. So it's a marketing tool in your job search and something you can trumpet to prospective employers. Our individualized services do have some eligibility criteria and requirements. So in order to work with a staff person on a regular basis, we do limit some of these individualized services to residents of our 3 counties. We do have a finite pool of resources. Therefore, we do dedicate these more individualized services to residents of Johnson, Leavenworth, and Wyandotte counties in Kansas. One-on-one career guidance with one of our workforce services specialists, laying out an action plan for educational and career goals. We may have technical training available to help you reach those career goals. That could be for books, tuition, and fees at a local institution, perhaps to pick up some new skills or to enhance current skills and earn an industry-recognized certification. We do have up to $4,000 available per person on occasion, depending on which funding source we leverage. We may be able to offer $5,000 or $6,000 per person toward industry-recognized credentials. You do have to live in the 3 counties, as I mentioned, and also as indicated on your screen, you must be eligible to work in the United States to be eligible for their services. And eligibility may be based on household income, which is generally the median level for the respective county, sometimes the poverty levels, or if you happen to have been displaced involuntarily from a prior job due to a layoff or a restructuring, that too may be a qualifying factor for our services. As far as our assessment options, we have several of them. I've listed our top 3 popular ones in the right-hand corner there. The Agile Work Profiler, which talks about assessing your abilities and agilities and crosswalking that with available occupations and or training and certifications. A couple of variations on that theme. That's the Career Interest Profiler, which is a product of the United States Department of Labor. And then we also have Career Scope, which is an older program, but a little bit more of an in-depth program that helps you identify your transferable skills or areas where maybe you need to enhance or improve. We also offer on-site, again, for residents of our 3 counties, basic computer training, and there's a bullet point list of some of the offerings in terms of the software that can be accessed through that computer training program. Wanted to do a quick shout out to the younger population in case you've got a young adult in your household or maybe your neighbors, maybe it's a child or a grandchild. We do have specialized and individualized services for young people that maybe are struggling to find their way in the labor force, perhaps dropped out of high school or struggling in school. Listed up here real quickly, some of the eligibility criteria for those services, 16 to 24. And for those with barriers to employment, that is anything that might serve as an impediment to career success. And just, I won't read on your screen, but there's some range of services available for those youth services. And we do employ specialized staff that focus purely on serving the young adult population in that 16 to 24 range. So if you know somebody like that on your own couch or at your neighbor's, please feel free to refer them to one of our offices. Since we do have limited resources, and I mentioned earlier that our individualized services in particular have the opportunity based on your individual qualifications, needs, and goals that perhaps we could finance some training, whether that's jobs-based or more frequently in a classroom environment where we do some short-term technical training that would result in an industry-recognized certification. Again, with the ultimate goal of assisting you in gaining new employment, different employment, or re-employment. We do focus those limited resources on specific areas. This is by policy, and that policy is set by our board of directors that I mentioned a little bit ago. The 5 sectors, or is it 6 now? It's 6 sectors I can count this evening: financial services, advanced manufacturing, healthcare and life sciences, information technology, the construction and skilled trades, and then supply chain and logistics, which does include the ever popular transportation, CDLs, things like that. These are known as our priority sectors. You might ask, well, how did you arrive at those sectors? Well, that tends to be where the greatest job demand is in recent times, and that would hold true now. These have been our priority sectors for probably about 3 to 4 years now, and they remain strong, high growth areas, hence the focus on these particular industries. On that note, just some quick labor market data. This particular information comes from the Mid-America Regional Council. It just gives you a quick snapshot of where we're at in terms of employment by industry. And there's raw numbers from October 2021 versus October 2022. So you can kind of see where the growth is. And in the far right corner, you will see the numeric growth in those particular industries. And most of those align somewhat well with our priority sectors. Also, sticking to the subject of labor market information and labor market data, as you'll see here, this breaks it down a little bit more by specific occupations. So as opposed to that industry level, we're taking it down just a notch to some more micro level, and that is specific occupations by vacancy and some of the wages. So you see, starting at the top there, your general operations managers, marketing managers, sales, etc., on down the list. Tells you a little bit about the number of job vacancies. This is information from the Kansas Department of Labor, and that's a raw number. So for instance, general and operations management is 351 vacancies at this time during the, I believe this is a month of December, this data, with average wages off to the right-hand side. We do have other specialized or targeted services within our workforce centers and within our menu and range of services, one of which focuses on veterans of the armed services. That includes qualified spouses of veterans as well as the veterans themselves. It offers additional assistance and support for those that qualify in regards to individual case management and counseling with a veterans representative. We also have a representative that advocates for veterans in job development and job placement with area employers. We also offer a Mature Workers Roundtable, which is a monthly networking group for those that are 55 and up. Our next one will be on February, I think we're going to hold on the 15th. That should be a Wednesday at 1 to 3 p.m. Of course, anytime you want to learn more about our workshops and when they're offered, just visit our website or call one of our offices. We also offer special reemployment services. That's targeted at those who are actively collecting unemployment insurance. If you're in the process of receiving unemployment compensation, you may find that you get a notification in the mail from the Department of Labor at the state of Kansas, and it may instruct you to come into one of our offices just to touch base so that we can check in on your job search strategies and tactics and successes related thereto, and perhaps offer a little assistance or some guidance and suggestions that would help improve the outcomes or results of those job search efforts. Last, but certainly not least, for anyone that may have been laid off due to foreign trade or foreign competition, we do have 2 specialized case managers serving our 3 counties that focus on assisting those individuals through the Trade Adjustment Assistance Program, and that helps you retool, upskill, or retrain for a different career having been laid off due to that foreign competition. We do have business-focused services too. So our other major customer base is the actual employers or businesses of our area. We offer job listing services through the aforementioned kansasworks.com website. Just about any job that we're working with on our business services side is going to be listed on that website. We also put out hot jobs lists and have occasional workshops that feature employer spotlights where individual representatives from companies may come in to recruit, to interview, or to do presentations to give some insights from inside the company. We offer recruitment assistance to businesses as well. That is to search for candidates and make referrals of qualified applicants. We also have work-based training that helps both job seeker and employer in that it reduces the employer's labor costs and new hire costs for a temporary period of time in exchange for them training you on the job while engaged in productive work and learning some hands-on skills specific to their occupations and their business line. We have outplacement services for individuals or companies that are laying off or found themselves caught up in a workforce reduction or a closure. We have individuals that can come in pre-layoff at the courtesy and the discretion of the employer to offer some transition assistance and make suggestions for getting resumes prepared, thinking about the transition to new employment, and seeing whether or not, based on a basic skills assessment, some retooling or some upskilling might be appropriate to help ease that transition through the jobs and the layoff. We also offer retention assistance and guidance for employers to retain their talent and help reduce turnover. And then, of course, employer education on various HR matters and things of that nature. Again, those are largely business focused, not so much pertinent unless we have business owners on the phone, which you never know, I'm sorry, online. But that's why I mentioned it, because it is part of our product line. So I wanted to leave quite a bit of time for any questions or answers that anybody might have. Be happy to run through any of the information that was on the previous slides. Otherwise, just ready to have a conversation. If anybody has some questions or comments, would love to hear them.
Hello again, everyone. So we did have a couple great questions in the chat here. The first was in regard to justice involved individuals who are looking to get back into the workforce. So the specific question, are there any target resources for people just entering the workforce or re-entering the workforce following incarceration? I had a little bit that I dropped in there, but Eric, I'd like to hear from you first.
First and foremost, yes, absolutely. We have the same and similar resources available for individuals, regardless of any background challenges that may be present. As a matter of fact, it's one of our priorities to assist such persons in re-entering the workforce and remaining in the workforce and being retained. So our guidance counselors, which we call them career navigators in our parlance, they're available to work with individuals to identify job opportunities. So they'll take a look at things like, what was that prior justice involvement? How recent was it? And have an honest conversation about what makes sense in terms of what's a good industry to target based on the nature of the prior challenges and whether or not those would present any impediments to reemployment in a particular industry. And so we would talk about that and take a look at what tend to be some more favorable industries toward working with individuals with backgrounds, as well as more favorable occupations. The good news is the current labor market is such that businesses and employers who perhaps in the past were not very willing to consider individuals with prior background issues. There is such a shortage of labor now that businesses often are considering candidates that previously they would not have. It's also, frankly, a potential violation of equal employment opportunity laws not to treat every applicant the same, regardless of race, ethnicity, etc., as well as any background challenges that may exist. And what they're going to do is take a look at the background issues, how long they were, the nature and scope of the involvement with the criminal justice system, and how that impacts, if at all, performing the essential job functions or job duties of a particular position. So we do put out a hot jobs list on a recurring basis, usually monthly, and that hot jobs list is posted on our website. It goes out through an email distribution list. It appears on our social media pages in particular. And on occasion, we will mix in what's known as an offender-friendly or reentry-friendly employer list. But another question we get a lot is, do you have a specific list of employers that hires felons? Well, as I mentioned, all employers under equal employment opportunity laws and expectations should consider every candidate on their own merits and then take into consideration the needs of the job, the needs of the company, as well as any background issues that may be encountered by the individual applicant. But certainly our individualized services can help you navigate those waters. And particularly if you feel like some new skills or enhanced skills or upgraded skills would help in that endeavor to include the earning of some of those technical or industry certifications I mentioned earlier. That's one of the things we would encourage, is about maybe getting some additional education such that your skill set becomes that much more attractive. And that way relegates any background issues even further into the periphery, so that we can market you a little better to the labor force.
Fantastic. And Eric mentioned the hot jobs list. We receive those basically weekly from Workforce Partnership. Those are posted at 10 of our 14 library branches, so spread all across the county. And we try to make those as readily available to the public as possible. The other resource I mentioned, and I dropped in the chat, if anybody has any difficulties accessing that flyer that I linked, please message me directly, and I'll see about sending it to you in another way. But long story short, the second Tuesday of every month, and we're knocking on the door of February now, every month, 10 a.m. to noon at the Central Resource Library at 9875 West 87th Street, so 87th and Farley. There is a program that is specifically tailored towards formerly justice involved individuals. That program is being put on through the Joco Community Corrections Adult Intensive Supervision Department. They have a phone number where you can reach them directly, 913-715-6700 or 715-4500. And we have another couple questions here in the chat. Do we want to go ahead and hit on those, Eric, or keep it moving for now?
Yeah, we can go ahead and hit on those.
All right. So another general question, any resources specifically for shift work?
So help clarify for me, what do you mean by shift work?
I have some guesses, but if that person would like to specify in the chat, we can circle back around. We have another question here. Are there resources, Eric, for people with disabilities to find jobs and navigate interviews and asking for accommodations?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the first things we would recommend is checking into the Department for Children and Families Rehabilitation Services to see if you might qualify for that, because they're the experts in vocational rehabilitation, and they have resources also similar to ours for even longer term education and upskilling. But they have a great wealth of knowledge and resources also for discussing and helping to finance accommodations that might benefit someone to transition into employment. Certainly, we too can guide, just like individuals that might be facing background issues. We can guide you on navigating conversations with potential employers, and again, highlighting and emphasize what you have to offer in terms of skills and experience, and not getting so sidetracked as some businesses or employers are apt to do on accommodations or challenges, and how they feel that might impact the ability of the individual to perform the job, whether it's real or perceived. Certainly, there's a lot of perception issues we've seen with that, and there's merely highly qualified, highly skilled individuals that may have a disability that simply requires some simple adjustments to the work environment, and you have a successful employee and a successful endeavor in terms of an employer-employee relationship.
Fantastic. I will also shout out our friends at Johnson County Developmental Supports. I will drop their link in the chat, but they are easily found. Simple Google search Johnson County Developmental Supports. That'll take you right to this page that I'm linking in the chat. And regarding the shift work, I think we have a little clarification here. How can someone acclimate to shift work, as this is often a hard to fill on the employer side? So they might be referring to service industry. Mm-hmm. Would you care to weigh in on that? And if we can get some additional clarification, I'll pop that in.
Yeah, so first I'll mention just you're going to find a whole variety of jobs on kansasworks.com. Everything is listed there. You got second shift, third shift, overnight shifts. Sometimes it's a difficult adjustment for people to make, and the business demands are what they are, and it's very difficult for a business to make adjustments when if their primary industry requires night work or night shifts or round the clock operations, there's not a whole lot that the business can do. So it comes to what can we do as employees or individual job seekers to target those jobs that offer the shifts or the work environment that we're willing to accept, because it's not often that you're going to find that the business can necessarily bend to our preferences or our will. So if you're currently in shift work, for instance, I worked for many years a 3 to 11 shift, and for a period of my life, it worked wonderful. And then as I transitioned into that period of my life, it didn't work so well. And so I stumbled into eventually the 8 to 5 world, if you will. So at different times in our lives, I think different schedules work for us. And sometimes I think people can feel like they're trapped. So for instance, if you're in the hospitality or restaurant industries, you're certainly talking a lot of evening work, and that's where the best money's made, since that's when the majority of folks may be out, or hospitality is around the clock. So there's certainly a bevy of opportunities to be made, but it's also a lifestyle adjustment for we as employees or job seekers. And sometimes it's an adjustment we're not willing to make. And so if you happen to be in shift work now that you don't like and you want to get into maybe a more routine or I don't know, traditional, I guess, for lack of a better term, schedule, then certainly I would go right back to what we talked about earlier, is that we have resources and have staff that can make suggestions about where to look in terms of what industries are apt to have which shifts, where the opportunities are in those industries and occupations, or which ones to avoid if they offer work that you don't care for in terms of the shifts being made available. Or ultimately, again, going back to if we have some resources available that could help you retool and perhaps change or enhance that skill set, that would open up some new avenues to different employers and different occupations that may offer different schedules. Perhaps that would help you to maneuver and navigate through those challenges or choices.
That's perfect. And I think that right there, I think you just answered that person's question.
Okay.
Thinking about transitioning into third shift work, be it in the security industry or manufacturing, et cetera, to be able to adjust to that switch in lifestyle and for a particular role. So
and it truly is a lifestyle and a mindset adjustment. For instance, I lived many years by a neighbor who worked in the railroad industry, and you want to talk about a lifestyle. Railroad is 24/7, 365. They don't care if it's Christmas. They don't care what day it is, and you're gone for long periods of time. However, he was willing to do that and made a great living doing it.
Fantastic. Well, that's all we have for the moment. So, Eric, if you want to call your PowerPoint back up.
I shall.
And again, everybody, thank you for being here. Eric, I know that you're covering a lot of ground, but I really appreciate all of you in attendance, as well as you, Eric, taking this time to spread the word about workforce partnership and all the fantastic things that you do.
Great. Let me share. And if I can get it to get into presentation mode again, I did want to revisit, if I may. We talked about the technical training options offered. We do work with area institutions, so a lot of times people ask, give some examples of the sort of training that we offer. We don't offer it directly. What we do is act as the third-party funding source for that training. So what you're going to want to do, if you're interested in maybe retooling or enhancing current skills, you can visit www.kansasworks.com. And first of all, create a user account. But you'll notice in the top right-hand corner of the screen, there's a place to search for training, or it'll be labeled training provider. So if you'd like to see some examples of the sorts of training that can be offered or accessed, go to kansasworks.com, look for that training provider link in the upper right-hand corner, and it'll let you search by occupation title or the name of the training, by zip code. Typically, what we focus on is short-term certification training. So for instance, IT certificates, we do a lot of certified nursing assistants, CDL, Class A truck drivers, certified medication aides. We'll do some LPNs on occasion. We've even assisted a few folks with completing, for instance, an associate's RN degree. Typically, our assistance goes for 1 year, maybe a year and a half. So if you're close to finishing a degree, we might be able to assist with that. Check out kansasworks.com, training providers, and it'll search out and return results for all of the institutions that we work with in the area. Certainly Johnson County Community College, Kansas City, Kansas Community College, a little bit with Metropolitan Community College on the Missouri side as well, because that meets some unique needs sometimes of our folks. There's lots of private proprietary schools on that list as well. I mentioned earlier that we can offer up to $4,000 per person for a 1-year training or certification. That would include payment toward books, tuition fees, necessary tools, supplies, etc. The costs of education have gone up just like everything else. So that $4,000 doesn't always cover all the expenses. So we do have some leeway to offer sometimes up to $5,000 or $6,000, just depending on the nature of your individual circumstance and the type of training and what sort of job it leads to. And then, of course, that's balanced with whatever our available resources are. And on occasion, the individual customer may have to face some out-of-pocket expenses or otherwise apply for other financial aid that can work in concert with our assistance. Also, we have on-the-job training arrangements. So I mentioned that both here as well as when I mentioned some of our business services. So there are scenarios where perhaps it's not feasible for economic reasons, personal reasons, or just personal choice to go back to a classroom training environment. And maybe it's going to take 6 months and maybe that's too long. Certainly there are some short-term training programs that can get you certified at a much shorter time period. For instance, CDLs are 4 to 5 weeks. Certified nursing assistants can be 6 or 8 weeks, depending on the program. Nevertheless, if that doesn't work and some instant remuneration for and paid employment is necessary, our business services team may have opportunities to develop on-the-job training. So maybe it's something unique to a particular company. But if you have certain baseline skills, they're willing to consider you, and we can offer a financial or a monetary incentive to that employer to say, look, we understand that this particular candidate, our customer, as you as the job seeker, may not have all the skills you need, but maybe they have quite a bit. Maybe they're 70% of what you're looking for in terms of the minimum skill requirements. What if we stepped in with an incentive for the employer to say, look, for the first 4 months, if you agree to train the customer, you, the job candidate, on these additional skills that you need that are so unique and specific to your situation or your job, we will offer an incentive and help cut your labor costs for that agreed upon training period. And that usually lasts anywhere from 3 to 4 to 5 months, to where we pay 50% of the wage basically for the employer in exchange for them taking the extraordinary time to teach you some things on the job that perhaps normally they would expect an incoming candidate to have straight from the point of new hire. But especially in a labor market such as this, where it's so tight and there's anywhere from 2 to 3 job openings for every job seeker, many employers are saying, hey, you know what? Maybe I need to lower that minimum threshold in terms of requisite skills that I'm looking for. Maybe I need to train somebody up on the job while they're getting paid and earning and learning, as we like to say. So that's the on-the-job training aspect of our technical training services. Regarding the technical training, whether it's classroom-based or jobs-based, your first step is always just to call the office nearest you and sign up for an orientation. So you'll reference a career services orientation or the career orientation. And that's where you can sit down learn a little more in depth about the program qualifications, the benefits available, the timing of it all, how long it will take, and whether or not it's feasible to get you in a local institution for that training or placed on a job. And then you'll be assigned with a individual career navigator to work through an action plan and a proposal, and we can get that on the road to approval and hopefully moving you on to the next job or career option. It generally takes a couple of weeks to supply the documentation and determine your eligibility. When I talk about documentation, you would ultimately be asked for things like proof of your current residence, a driver's license, verification that you're eligible to work in the United States, which is going to be, birth certificate or social security card. Just like anytime you start a job, you fill out what's called a Form I-9 to verify your employment eligibility in the United States. We collect similar documentation since these funds are limited to those that can legally work in the United States. Another popular offering, like I mentioned, our computer training. You can come in here. You don't have to meet any qualifications. You would just meet with our assessment specialist. Maybe you want to learn a little bit about Google Docs or learn more about Microsoft Office. A one-time appointment with our assessment specialist just so she can show you how to navigate the computer training site and get you on your way and create a user account. And then from thereafter, you could access that remotely as well. Yeah, I think that's the only thing I wanted to revisit, since that's generally where the bulk of the questions are. Otherwise, that concludes the formal presentation. I'll stop the share, and I think somebody else popped into the chat. Perhaps it's a new question. I didn't look.
Yes. So the question was regarding those JoCo Community Corrections programs, how they're structured. And unfortunately, since I don't work out of Central for one, also that is a brand new program series that has just started. If memory serves, January was the very first offering. So the next offering will be 2 weeks from today. So Valentine's Day, February 14th at Central Resource Library from 10 to noon. I also recommend, once again, calling the program leaders at either 913-715-6700 or 715-4500 for more information there, as they are the ones who are handling that. If anybody hasn't seen that flyer yet, their goal is to assist in numerous areas. So obtaining identification, as Eric mentioned, that would be a requirement for workforce partnership services, job readiness, education skills, employment services, connecting with a mentor, career path through College of Trades, cognitive programs, on-site enrollment in treatment programs, community service work referrals, if that is required for you, links to food, housing, transportation, medical, and financial partners, and the ever tantalizing and much more. So very broad set of services in these monthly programs. Again, the second Tuesday of every month at Central Resource Library. Eric also mentioned technical skills and the workforce partnership, their efforts in that regard. I'm going to drop another link in the chat here. So Johnson County Library has multiple subscriptions to a myriad of services which are designed to help you improve those skills. Whether you are beginner, intermediate, advanced, doesn't matter. And if you follow that link that I just put in the chat, which is just jocolibrary.org/research/career-development, you'll see a big long list and everything's pretty clearly spelled out, but I will give a quick shout out to Udemy, which is a Gale product, and it contains college level courses all the way down to very beginner video-based learning, where you can basically obtain anything from your technical skills to other skills that are more practical, for life skills. It's an absolutely fantastic resource, and I can't speak highly enough about it. So whether you are looking to improve your Microsoft skills or possibly get into an advanced technical field, they have the works. It's quite wonderful. Eric, that is all that we have as far as questions are concerned. However, I did want to bring up one thing. So briefly mentioned our friends on the Missouri side of the border. So obviously you're servicing in our kind of tri-county area here. But I believe your equivalent for Kansas City are the Missouri Job Centers. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the Full Employment Council is our sister organization, if you will, for the Missouri side, and they operate the Missouri Career Centers. And similar to us, they're a nonprofit that oversees the operations of those centers, and they do partner like us with various state agencies as well as their own private employees in the one-stop workforce center environment. So again, Full Employment Council, the nearest one here would be 1740 Paseo. They've been there for many years, and they offer the same similar range of services that we do. However, like us, they're going to focus most of those services and resources on residents of their service counties, which is primarily Jackson, but a few surrounding counties. And then there's some exceptions if you're a laid off worker. So for example, if somebody's laid off from a business here in Lenexa, right down the road on the frontage street, but they live in Independence, Missouri, the fact that they were laid off by a Kansas business enables me to serve them if I have the resources to do so. So it's not that we can't serve Missouri residents, it's just under very narrow circumstances. And the fundamental, the most common one, that being they were laid off from a Kansas business, in which case we don't care about where you live. It's the fact that you were displaced by a business that was located in Kansas.
Fantastic. And I put that link in the chat as well. That's just jobs.mo.gov. And I specifically linked to their job centers locator page. Well, Eric, that is all I have in terms of this program. If you have any parting words, wisdom or whimsy or something else that starts with a W, feel free. Otherwise, I'll give my exit spiel and we'll get done a little early.
Yeah, I just want to reemphasize for anyone facing some difficulties, the labor market is in a very unique phase right now. Great worker shortage. Like I mentioned, depending on the data you look at, there's at least 1.5 to 2, sometimes 3 job openings or job vacancies for every job seeker. So now is the time to begin that job search or retool in earnest. And if you have the time also to invest in yourself in terms of skills, the way to get around some of these things that you may find to be impediments are to improve upon your skill set. So that way, if there is issues, for instance, since the reentry subject matter has come up several times, the more you can focus on skills, it takes the focus off what other things may have happened in the past. It's more about what can you bring to the table? How can you be productive? And like I said, the time is right. The iron is hot. And it's time to strike because there's such a worker shortage right now. So there's lots of opportunities out there, and inflation and that worker shortage has driven up wages. So jobs that just 2 years ago paid $10 or $12 an hour are now paying $15, $17, and sometimes up to $20.
I will also point out, if you feel stuck in your current vocation, I just once again dropped another link in the chat. On our career resource page that I mentioned earlier, that's the career development page, we also have a guide from our librarians for you to explore different career options. So there are some different basically strengths finders, which take your interests, your existing skills, they put them in that big pot, and they try to match you up with different vocations that you maybe previously hadn't thought of. So feel free to check out the different resources through that link. The Agility's work profile is fantastic. The ONET Resource Center, all really great resources if you feel like branching out into a different industry.
Yeah.
So Eric, thank you for reminding me about that. And I'll go ahead and do my little wrap up here. So thank you all once again. Please take a moment to chime in on the chat to thank Eric for taking the time out of his evening to share all of this excellent information about Workforce Partnership. Our next career and finance program will be the second in the Careers Begin Here series and will feature Flint Hills Job Corps. For anyone who hasn't heard of it before, Job Corps is a tuition-free training and education program that connects eligible young people ages 16 to 24 with the skills and educational opportunities they need to establish real careers. So if that sounds like something that might be interesting to you or a family member or a friend, feel free to check out our events page and forward that along to them. For more assistance in the realm of career and finance, visit jocolibrary.org and click on the Career and Finance feature on the homepage to discover more upcoming events, sign up for our monthly Career and Finance e-newsletter, or find additional career and finance resources. Maybe something that I somehow haven't dropped in the chat tonight. Also, be sure to follow us on all the socials. We're at Joco Library to receive notifications for additional live online Johnson County Library programming for all ages. Thank you all once again, and have a great evening.
Thanks all. Be safe.